Hey guys, welcome to another episode of All Queued Up. I'm your host, Greg Dietz, and with me always is my co-host, Josh Fisher.
Hey everybody, how you doing?
I legit almost gave you my last name. That's why there was a small
Uh,
pause.
well,
my,
I'll be whoever you want me to
well,
be.
my little brother's also named Josh, so that's why my brain did that. when I
That's totally understandable.
when I talk to my parents about you, I have to be like my co-host, not my
Yeah.
brother. Guys, if you're new to the podcast, what we do here is we watch shows in their entirety on a internet streaming service, a la Netflix, Hulu, plus YouTube Red, Amazon Prime, what have you. And we give our thoughts and impressions on that show. We do talk about spoilers, and usually some shows have heavy themes, so keep that in mind. Um, today's episode is going to be about Jessica Jones Season 2 and Voltron Legendary Defender Season 5. So with that out of the way, we're going to begin on Voltron Legendary Defender Season 5. Josh, if you could
Oh,
briefly give them a synopsis as to what the show is about and kind of where we are in the show that leads into Season
all
5.
right. Well, I can certainly do that. And just before I do mention that, we did cover in episode 2 of All Queued Up, Voltron Legendary Defender, seasons 1 through 4.
That's true.
And you can find the links to those episodes on our website, www.allqueueduppodcast.com. But yeah,
Totally forgot about the
shameless
website.
plug.
I, didn't,
Shameless plug.
I have notes for just this occasion, and I didn't write that note down, so shame on
That's
me.
you wear that badge of shame, sir.
Anyway,
Yeah,
what's the show about, Josh?
Voltron. Voltron Legendary Defender. It's an animated web television series. It's produced by American companies DreamWorks Animation and World Events Productions, who actually is responsible for the original series being brought to the United States back in the 80s, and animated by South Korean studio Mir. It's a reboot of both the Beast King Go Lion anime and the Voltron franchise, and its animations are a mix of anime-influenced traditional animation for characters and background, and CGI for Voltron action sequences. Legendary Defender is set in a science-fictional universe where planetary energy called quintessence can be used to power vehicles and magic. The series follows the adventures of the Paladins of Voltron, who must learn to work together to form the giant robot Voltron and use it to defeat the Galra Empire. Now, at the end of season 4, pretty much Lotor had, turned against the Galra, turned against the Galra Empire, and made it appear like he wanted to work with the Paladins. And kind of where season 5 picks up. And this season it had 6 episodes, and I have to say, I liked some of what they did, and I didn't like some of what they did.
Now, I'm curious what you didn't like, because if it's what I did like, that's going to make for an interesting conversation.
I didn't like the fact that Lotor flat out killed Zarkon in the second episode.
Oh,
Zarkon is dead.
it's not where I thought you were going, but I did like that only because of what it led to.
I like what it leads to. I didn't like how quickly it happened.
Well,
It
I would
felt
argue
rushed.
I would argue that it didn't happen quickly considering it's season 5.
Yeah, but at the end of season 4, it's like, you know, it just, there seemed to be a time jump. Um, and a time jump works for me in some aspects, but when you're telling a narrative like this, a continuous narrative, a significant time jump, it had apparently been several months, and Lotor has been a captive of the paladins in the castle, and he's feeding them information of targets to hit to weaken the Galra. And you don't know what his intentions are, but I'm like, did we see Lotor taken captive at the end of season 4? I don't recall that.
Yeah, I was very confused as to what was happening in the first episode, especially with the fact that there was no like last time on, because I
Yeah, there was no recap.
yeah, it just hopped right in. It was very, I was, because even though the show is being made very quickly, it's only like legitimately a film's worth of content. I mean, each episode is 20 minutes, and if you tie that together, like, I think the upcoming Infinity War is going to be longer than all 6 episodes of season 5 of Voltron.
That's possibly.
Uh, well, they've clocked it at like 2.5 hours, and I think that if you tied all this together, it would be about 2 hours. So,
Yeah.
point I'm getting at is there needed to be something, because it took me a while to remember that Lotar, like, he flew right through or shot the cannon giant ship thing at the very end of season 4. But yeah, there was a lot of like just no information given at the very beginning.
Yeah, yeah. And to me, that hurt the pacing a little bit. Um, you know, but at the same time, I did enjoy it. I just felt that the confrontation between Lotor and Zarkon happened way too fast, and the outcome was a bit of a surprise for it to be decided that early on. But what stemmed from it was fascinating because we see how the Galra choose their next emperor, who is going to lead the empire. So now you have these various commanders and factions vying for control. It's like, oh, well, it should be me. No, it should be me. And then there's this archivist who presides over this entire ceremony, and it takes place on this little remote. Uh, I wouldn't even call it a planet. It was more like an asteroid or something like that.
Yeah,
Um, and it was just cool. You know, you see all these people, they're gathering. It's like, well, you know, I'm the strongest here. Nobody's going to light this flame. I'm going to do it. So that was really cool because you also see some, a bit of splintering, so to speak, in the Paladins. Uh, Shiro, he's like, you know what? We do need to work with Lotor. The princess is very hesitant about it, and the rest of the team is just flat out against it. They don't want to work with him.
I thought
And
I keep wanting to call him Keith, but his name isn't Keith. He's the one that thinks he's a ladies' man, but
Lance,
Lance, thank you. Yeah, Lance seemed to be for it. He seemed to like
there was a
reluctantly
lot.
trust him.
There was a lot less focus on Lance and Hunk, and to an extent, Pidge in this season arc. The focus seemed to be more on Shiro, Lotor, and Allura.
That's not to
And
say that Pidge did still have one of the more interesting storylines, because if I'm not mistaken, I think it's season 4 when Pidge finds her brother.
yeah,
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 yeah.
that was wonderfully done. That whole graveyard marker sequence still stands out as one of my favorite scenes. And then they go
Absolutely.
and ruin it. Then they go and ruin it. But I
But
mean,
I
yeah, they do
enjoyed.
recover. Speaking of Pidge, they do recover her and her brother's father.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Is like
It,
that whole arc I thought was very fun, even though it led to the scene that you didn't like.
yeah.
I
Well, I just think Zarkon still could have been used for a little bit longer. Um, you know, I just felt it was Lotor has achieved too much too soon, but he did it with the help of the Paladins.
I would honestly argue that uh, Zarkon was at one point already dead. And I remember when I thought he was dead, I kind of moved on to this new badass character, Lotor. And actually,
Hmm.
I did not like the fact that Lotor was like kicked out and it was now his dad again. Like I actually really disliked that. Mainly because for me, I'm not a big fan of how comic books will kill off a character and then bring them back. I kind of hate that. To
Yeah.
me,
Oh,
when a
trust me.
story is going on and on and on and on, and it gets to a point where a character, a big character dies, I think that their death should have resonance. It should have a ripple effect, and
Hmm.
by bringing that character back, you null and void that entire impact. And it felt like that's what this show did by bringing him back. So
Well, he wasn't dead though. He was near death, and once that happened, you never see his face again because he's like fully in a containment suit. So I'm assuming that it was power. It was basically quintessence in that suit keeping him alive.
I, regardless of
Yeah,
whatever it was, regardless that it's like, oh, he was actually trapped through time and he comes back, Captain America, or oh, it's actually his Kryptonian blood bringing him back, Superman. Um, it all seemed kind of ham-fisted and thrown in for later plot points that didn't really matter. I still feel like you could have gotten to a a civil war of sorts in season 5 had you not brought back. Um, Now I'm drawing a blank on his name. We just said his name 2 seconds ago.
Zarkon.
Zarkon. I kept wanting to say Lotor, but I'm like, Lotor's the badass one. Lotor's the one I like. Uh,
Yeah.
um, like you could have done a plot point where, uh, like Lotor's challenged for the throne. That just because he's the son doesn't make like that's not how that works. He has to get the flame like they showed in this season, and he
Hmm.
loses, which causes him to then join forces in a sense with Voltron or the Paladins in general. And you could have gotten to the point in this show, but instead they were like, "Oh, well, he died, but he's not actually dead." So that was something I didn't really like. I actually thoroughly enjoy Josh, like the idea of taking a main character and killing him off early. I love that idea.
I'm not opposed to it. I just felt that it was a little anticlimactic because of the way the first four seasons have progressed. This just felt a little bit rushed at the end of season four. Coming into this, Zarkon's like, hey, you've got my son. I've got somebody who you value. Let's trade. And then,
I only feel like it felt rushed to you because there was this big time jump between season four
yeah,
and 5.
that's a possibility. I mean, another episode would have probably helped. That's one of the things that I'm not enjoying about this shorter season. I do like the fact that they're giving us content quicker but in smaller doses. But I think that the storytelling is suffering from the lack of an extra episode.
I
Like I know
think if
the new season's supposed to launch in June. It'll be 7 episodes. Hopefully, it'll be tied together a little bit better. But
well, yeah.
that's just a personal nitpick of mine.
I think a yearly 13 would actually probably benefit this show a lot more than the biannually 6 7 episodes.
Yeah, I think it would. I think the first two seasons were stronger. Uh, because of that, they were able to spend a little bit more time and not rush as much. So maybe they'll go back to that. I don't know,
Yeah,
but
we'll see.
regardless, I don't disenjoy the show. Like I said, I'm
Oh, for
really
sure.
enjoying some things like the fallout from Lotor taking out Zarkon. He's like, all right, now I'm going to take my rightful place. And it's like, Hagar shows up. No, you can't rule because you are not of 100% Galra blood. You're half Altean, boy. And he was like, so what? Some traditions don't need to be followed strictly. He's wanting to break this ancient paradigm that they've always had.
Yeah.
He was like, I want to show my worth. And, he ascends. He lights the flame after a big battle. He shows up
That
with Shiro. Shiro takes him, there in the Black Line. And everybody's like, what? And he's like, I've returned the Black Line to the Galra. And,
speaking of that, by the way, before you continue your thought, there are very interesting I want to say racist undertones for the way that the Galra uh, treat the Alteans or look at the
uh huh,
Alteans.
uh huh.
I personally enjoy that just to the aspect that I feel like it makes sense in my head. That's logically speaking how the Galra would react. Plus, it kind of makes them more villainous.
Well,
But
yeah.
yeah, so that when he calls Lotor boy, I was like, this guy needs to get his ass beat, and I knew that's the exact feeling they wanted me to get. So kudos, kudos
Yeah,
for
yeah.
that.
And now, I really enjoy the things that follow after that. My point was, it just felt too rushed. But I love the whole look at me, look at what I've done. This is why nobody should dare challenge me ascending these steps and lighting this flame. And Hagar showing up and saying, no, it can't be you. You don't deserve this because you're not pure. And later on, Lotor, he takes command and he invites the paladins to the heart of the Galra Empire. He's like, look, I rule. You guys have free reign. Let me show you the facilities. Let's work together. Let's, bring peace to the galaxy. And he seems to really want this. Um, and he and Allura are in Hagar's old chambers, because she's gone off on her own because Zarkon's dead. She doesn't seem to realize. I don't think she remembers who she truly was. I think her mind is fragmented, and she's getting glimpses
Oh,
of it.
oh yeah, 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 absolutely. I felt like that was especially a big character arc for her after we saw the flashback.
Hmm.
The big episode. Was that a 2 episode thing? That big flashback,
I'm not
or is
sure.
it
I would
just one
have to go
episode?
back
Doesn't
and
matter.
check. I think it was just the one.
Yeah, it was. It
I know
was.
it's.
But it gave insight to who she is. It gave insight to who Zarkon is, and who the original paladins were, and like there was so much information
Mhm.
given to us in that flashback that shortly after that flashback when we saw her, like I think they immediately went with this whole like what her entire purpose is and why she's attached to Lotor the way she is and why she doesn't want him to die and I just thought that was so I loved that and so the fact that they keep kind of essentially going with that and pushing that forward I think is a very very fun neat thing to watch. uh, I want to what I want to see with her is in a sense like you said like getting flashes of who she was. um I want her to regain her entire memory and then have this
Mhm.
moment of I can't believe what I've done. I can't believe where I've gone. And total remorse. I think that would be the ending to an excellent arc for her.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm interested. I'm interested to see where they go with her from here because she's clearly, only getting glimpses and just shoving that aside. I mean, and I think Allura has definitely keyed on the actual relationship between Lotor and Hagar and who Hagar was, and Lotor is flat out in denial. But I think he has to realize that, oh my God, this is the truth. Um, but
How do you feel about the whole ending bit of the final episode where Lotor and Alora are in the I don't even know what to call it really, but basically
oh, the
where her
the
father.
fabled land where the Alteans learned alchemy, and they have discovered this through a having to pass through a white hole. I
Yeah.
thought that was cool as hell.
Yeah, I
I
really
really
dug that.
did. But I also dug the fact that, only people deemed worthy by this White Lion Guardian could enter. And when they got to this one puzzle that they each had to solve individually, he failed and it put him outside. And she passed and she was able to proceed.
Not that
I
I'm
think,
not that I'm criticizing it, but that puzzle
uh huh.
I thought was super predictable. Like
Oh,
almost too predictable.
absolutely. Absolutely a bit on the nose, but at the same time, it helps Lotor see, okay, there are things that I need to work on in my character, obviously. And I think he realizes that was a bit of the Galra side coming out of him.
Absolutely.
But
If not that, just the growing up in the Golden Empire in general.
yeah, yeah. But I really enjoyed where they went with a lot of things. I like the fact that they're kind of playing into Shiro. Something's off with Shiro. He like the early on in episode one, maybe was it? Um, when they had to, I don't remember what episode it was. It was in the first half of the season though, when they had to get out of one situation, and they came together in some type of weird void to communicate with each other. And Shiro was trying to tell Lance something, and Shiro had no recollection of it whatsoever. Lance is realizing something's up, not quite right
Well,
with
I mean,
Shiro.
we still don't know where Shiro was prior to the
Exactly.
events of the show in general. So
That and, his disappearance at the end of season two, and
yeah,
coming back later in season three. Uh,
there's something about him that's very
Something's
important if we're
up.
getting there.
Yeah, I think it is paving the way for that because we don't know the events of what happened to him when he was captured. Uh, we know part of we do know he was forced into gladiatorial combat and he lost part of his arm and it was replaced, but we don't know what else was done to him.
Right.
And it's interesting because I think we're finally going to get those answers.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
I still think,
I read there's only like four more seasons of the show.
well, they are committed for 77 episodes.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. So I think someone did the math
and
on that.
there are 45 episodes now in the first five seasons.
Okay, so more than
So they
four
still have
seasons.
another 32 episodes to go. They could get roughly, if they went 7 episodes per season, that's another 4 seasons and change.
Yeah. All right. Well.
So
All right. We're gonna wrap it up there. We're gonna give our grades real quick. I'm gonna go
one
for.
one thing I did want to mention too, I think, Keith found his mother, the spy he was sent in to help exfiltrate uh, he's found the well, she claims to be his mother. She was able to use his blade of Memora.
Oh yeah, yeah,
It
yeah.
was the
That was such
it
a
was
weird, quick subplot.
Yeah, and it was really the only episode that Keith was really in at all.
Right. Yeah.
It's like, hey, we got to give Keith something to do. Oh yeah, remember he's half Galrin. Hmm. And of course, that also plays into the whole uh, when they found out that Keith was Paul Galrin and how everybody was treating him
Yeah.
and how he was upset at that. But yet, you also see Allura, as soon as she learns that Lotor is half Altean, look at how quickly she warmed up to him, but how cold she was toward Keith. That's an interesting thing too that I think is going to come into play.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just wanted to touch on that briefly.
Um. So I'll give my grade real quick. I'm gonna give it this season specifically. I'm gonna give it a B plus. It's a very very good season. Very fun. Very action packed. Lots of action in it. Actually, when I think about it, but
Yeah,
what I really enjoyed was the character development in every single character. I mean, even like there are small character developments, like you just heard with Keith or with Lance, and dealing with like looking at Shiro like a father figure, but not knowing what the fuck his father's doing. Like that's an important aspect to Lance's character arc. I thought that there was a piece of information given in this episode that I thought was important, and that's they know exactly where Earth is. Um, if they said that in a previous season, I missed it. But in this season, when Pidge gets her dad and he's like, "I'm heading back to Earth, but I understand
Mm-hmm.
you guys have to still help," like they know where Earth is straight up, and I think that's gonna be that's a fun aspect. I hope that they eventually do go back to Earth and we get to see them come back as heroes essentially. Um, but uh, but yeah, I really enjoyed it. I wished that they took a little bit more time with certain things. I agree. I didn't
Mm-hmm.
like the time jump. I thought that was very confusing and where like exactly where we were. Um, and there seemed to be a couple plot points that were just there specifically to push the plot forward instead of advance the plot naturally. So, um, but they weren't so off-putting that it made the show unwatchable by any measure. Because it's still fun, very well acted, very well animated, and I look forward to season 6 and further. So, yeah, B plus.
I hear you. Right on. I'm also going to give it a B plus. I wish I could give it a higher grade than that because I absolutely adore this series and this franchise as a whole, and I have ever since I was a little boy. I've always been a fan of Voltron, and I hopefully always will be. And so far, they've not done anything to deter me from that. But yeah, I really do enjoy it. The animation is fun. The voice acting is great. I really like a lot of the plot elements where they're going with this show. It leaves me curious as to what's going on. They did set up some good things to come, like the potential Gauran invasion of Earth. The Pidges and uh, her brother, their Matt, their father going back to Earth. He's like, I have to alert Galaxy Garrison as to what's coming. Great. I would love to see the war expanded. Uh, but who is going to be the ones? Is it going to be Hagar or other factions? Those things are curious that I'm curious about. The whole is this really Keith's mother, and what's going to happen with him and the Blades of Memoria? Is he ever going to return to the team full time? Because who the fuck knows what's going on with Shiro? Is he going to be around long term? Those are the answers that I want, and those are the things I'm looking for. And is Lotor really trustworthy? I love his character, but you still have doubt, and that is cool. So I really like where they're going with the show and what they've done. It's a strong show overall, and I couldn't I can I couldn't be happier. I could be happier. Come on, pacing issues. Let's slow it down just a little bit and just get another episode in there to bridge that gap, and I think it would have been a better season. I think it would have been an A had they been 7 episodes and not did that time jump.
Right, right. So, yeah, guys, definitely check out the show. And when you do, go to our Facebook discussion page. There we will have two different sections. One will be dedicated to Voltron. And yeah, just let us know what your thoughts are. Let us know what your grade is. We would love to hear how exactly maybe our opinion differed from yours. So please go check that out. But we're gonna move
Yeah,
on. What's up, Josh?
yeah,
Oh,
that's what I was gonna say. We love getting feedback, and we were given some really cool feedback today, and I just wanted to mention that. As some of you may know, Greg and I, we occasionally stream on Twitch. And one of my Twitch viewers, guy I've known for a while, he sent me a message wondering how things were and wanted to let us know that he's been checking out the show and he really enjoyed. He's like, you seem to focus more on the story and storytelling aspect. as opposed to cinematography and the technical parts of movies and shows, unlike what I'm used to hearing, so that was refreshing. And you were also being really professional about the podcast, whereas I'm used to people who get way more passionate or jokey. Not a critique, just my observations and biases. And this is why I'd really want to hear something more. I like it when you guys' personality shines through. So kudos. And I just wanted to thank him for that feedback. That was a really cool thing to see today.
Yeah, it's
big
it's some very,
thanks,
very nice
Alan.
words.
Yeah, big thanks, Alan. We appreciate that. But
um,
yeah,
all right, so on to our second discussion. Jessica Jones
Jessica Jones.
season 2. So, if you are unsure who Jessica Jones is, basically the show is about a superpowered woman who has a mysterious past, and her entire family's dead because this happened when she was young. But when we meet up with her in season 1, she is a private investigator, and throughout season 1, she is dealing with the fact that a haunting visage has come back to terrorize her. Essentially, his name is Kilgrave. He's known as the Purple Man in the comic books. His superpower is that he has the superpower of persuasion, basically forcing you in a hypnotic sense to do whatever his bidding is. So she was abused and raped and forced to do things she wouldn't have normally done because of this monster, literal monster. And by the end of season 1, she kills him. She's able to overcome his ability and snaps his neck. So we meet up in season 2 almost right where it left off. I'd say maybe a few months tops.
Yeah, she is definitely struggling.
But it takes place after
with
Defenders.
Her actions.
It takes place after Defenders.
Which, honestly, haven't seen yet, but doesn't seem like anything from the Defenders was necessary for watching season 2 of Jessica Jones.
The only thing I would say is necessary is that because of the events of Defenders, she's more outed as a super person than before.
Yeah. But at the same time, you could watch season 1 and people know that she was the one that stopped Kilgrave.
Right.
So
yeah, it's not like the leap isn't that high.
Exactly.
It's maybe like the step up on a curb. But other than that, like there's nothing really you need from Defenders. She was just kind of a part of the team. That being said, season 2 is basically about Jessica discovering her past and overcoming that. A lot of her character arc throughout the entire season is about her overcoming these insurmountable things to deal with that would just break other people. But something that's very important about this show, and not just with Jessica Jones herself, but like the entire show's like main cast of characters are strong women dealing with shit that would break other people. And I personally think that shit's refreshing. Just because usually when there's a strong female character, there's like 8 strong male characters. But for this show, like all the male characters are, like not I want to say underlings, but they're definitely not in positions of power. You know, or if they are in positions of power, it's not like major power. Like one guy is a super, and when I say super, I'm not the superintendent of a building. And but later that becomes Jessica Jones's love interest, so whatever.
That was pretty predictable too.
Oh, that was super predictable.
The writing was all over the wall on that. I was like, well, she's gonna be fucking him by episode 4, and I think what was it, episode 5?
Yeah, because I think in episode 4, when she invited him in for a drink, I was like, oh, they're gonna fuck, because like that's just the way the show goes. And then it cut to a scene of 2 people fucking, and I was like, I called it. And the camera pans up, and it's Trish and her boyfriend. I was like, son of a bitch. But then next episode they fuck. Uh, yeah, I mean,
Now,
I
an interesting thing too, before we go any further about this season, every episode was directed by a female director.
yes,
Um,
yes. Now
so
here's
they really wanted to go with this whole women are equal, and I applaud
absolutely.
this.
There are some lines though that I thought were like, it almost seemed like somebody like Anita Sarkeesian came in and wrote the line. Um,
Yeah,
like one that I thought was way like it was like that seems unnecessary to say. Was when Chang is he's trying to get Jessica Jones to join his firm, and he says, "I don't take no for an answer," and her response is, "That seems very rapey of you." I was like,
uh,
I don't. I
yeah,
think that line's a bit too much.
that line was a little bit much, because let's see, that actor was Terry Chen, and I'm trying to think what in the world have I seen him in, and I can't for the life of
Yeah.
it. And I realized where it was. Almost Famous. He played the guy Rolling Stone magazine, Ben Torres, whatever his name was, Ben Fong Torres.
I'm just gonna go with your word on that because I haven't seen Almost Famous, so
Oh, you've never seen Almost Famous?
I have not.
That's it. This show's over. Fuck it.
uh,
I love that movie.
to
Anyway, I'm
to
kidding.
further that, like there are just a few lines, and it was very early on in the show, like the first few
Yeah,
episodes.
yeah,
It
and the
stopped later.
first about the first two episodes, it felt a little heavy-handed with that kind of thing.
Well,
But
I personally feel like when you make a show that is designed to put women in the forefront, powerful women, strong women in the forefront, and you
mhm,
really want to showcase that. You don't have to constantly make lines that, in a sense, Tumblrites would say. Um, I don't need like I was almost like after that line of like, oh, it's very rapey of you. I almost thought that maybe I would later hear Trish be like, well, now I'm triggered, which I was gonna be like, it
oh,
seems off. Because I personally feel like something that like let's take the movie Wonder Woman for example.
mhm,
Talking to my sister and my mom who are feminists, who made who essentially raised me to be a feminist. We watched those movies and they're like, yeah, I felt like it was just it was awesome. I felt empowered, and talk to somebody who just saw the recent Black Panther and how all the major characters that are women in that movie are badasses. Like,
mhm,
not once were they badasses because they stood up to a man. They were just badasses because they were equal to the men. They were just more.
exactly.
They were just like the men and women in those movies are equals. And um, when it came to dealing with, you know what, I can never remember his name, but it was the guy that worked for Jessica Jones.
Malcolm,
Malcolm. Jesus, I constantly forgot his name.
love his
Um,
character.
Absolutely adore that character. As a matter of fact, at
He,
the end of the season, when he puts on that suit, I was like, "Damn, Malcolm, you clean the fuck up."
yeah. I honestly, I really, really enjoyed what they did with Malcolm in this season. I'm very happy that he has progressed in the show as he has.
Absolutely. He had a very interesting character arc too, because, and I think to an extent, his was arguably the most connected to season one.
Yeah,
Uh,
absolutely.
just because he was a junkie in season one, got
Hmm.
clean thanks to Jessica's help,
Hmm.
and then was working for Jessica, but like constantly verbally abused by her,
Oh yeah, berated left and right.
which made me disconnect from Jessica a little bit, but I also completely understood where she was coming from. Like, you disconnect yourself from people and you're not going to get hurt when they do something. And I was talking to my mom about this and she was like, I couldn't understand why Jessica just went off on him. Like, I couldn't relate to that. And I was like, you have to put yourself in her shoes. She put her trust in Malcolm. She put her faith in Malcolm, and it was broken by somebody again. And that was too much for her to bear. And so her knee jerk reaction was anger.
Yeah.
And it
Well,
to me,
that's another thing about her too is she's not meant to be a likable character. I don't feel.
she is
Um,
definitely the if Punisher is an anti-hero, she's the same but in terms of personality.
yeah, yeah,
You like her because she's doing good stuff. She's the good guy. But you're just kind of like, your attitude sucks sometimes.
yeah, yeah,
But
exactly.
it's also understandable. Like you understand why she acts out the way that she does.
Oh
Uh,
yeah,
so
yeah. I'm
let's
not saying it's bad.
right. Well, I'm talking about other people,
Yeah,
because I do pick up like Twitter conversations and stuff sometimes. But um, I want to talk about the major, not necessarily antagonist, because there was no direct antagonist. There was more of like a plot that was antagonizing to Jessica. Because
mm-hmm.
I wouldn't call the Doctor an antagonist. I wouldn't call her, spoiler
No,
alert, mom an antagonist. Um, I would call that whole plot point an antagonist to Jessica exclusively.
yep.
There is no Kilgrave for season one, for season two. But I
That's
I think
that.
that's where the show loses me a little bit.
Yes,
Okay, I wasn't sure if we
this
were going to see
th-
eye to eye on that.
this show. I loved season one. Kilgrave was just deplorable, and
Season 8 was the best episode of the season.
to see David Tennant just be this fucking scumbag, who I adore David Tennant, my favorite doctor
Same
from
here.
Doctor Who. I love David Tennant. I love anything he does, and to see him play Kilgrave to the level that he did, it was wonderful. It was delightful. And in season two, there's no there's no big bad.
Right.
It's like there's no Kilgrave. That was a very high bar that was set that I felt that season two did not live up to. As well as season two was done, it suffered from pacing issues
I
badly.
think that was an attempt on their part intentionally, just because you can't top Kilgrave. You can't top David Tennant's performance, especially in a big bad sort of way. You have to just bring in a storyline that causes Jessica turmoil in a similar way and hope that
Hmm.
that it works. I personally just this is my own personal thing. I don't expect everybody to follow it. I kind of hate origin stories.
Yeah.
Um, I,
Well, I don't hate them, but I'm tired of them.
I maybe you're right on that. I feel like when you tell
Every
when you yeah,
single hero, you know, there's an origin story. There's an origin story.
I think
There's
that's
an
why I
origin
like Luke
story.
Cage. I think that's why I like Luke Cage, because like his quote unquote origin was like in brief flashbacks. Like you weren't
Yeah.
given a whole like season based on it, and that's what kind of this was. And I was like, I don't like. All right, we can we move on from IGH? Can we please move on from IGH? Like I'm kind of tired of this whole plot point.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Well, look, every time there's a Spider-Man movie, you get the origin told in some form or fashion. We got it with the Sam Raimi Spider-Man. We got it with the Mark Webb Spider-Man. Haven't seen Homecoming yet, but I'm going to assume there's a little bit of origin thrown in there somewhere. Maybe I don't know, but
no, actually,
oh, okay, good, good. That is refreshing to know then. But Batman movies. Look at the four from late '80s and through the '90s. His origin story is hammered home in every one of those movies. Look at the Nolan trilogy, which was wonderful, at least the first two anyway. Um, I felt the third one was kind of weak, but
well, I mean,
the
if you
first
ask me, I
two,
think the third one is complete garbage.
well, I wouldn't say it's complete garbage, but it is weaker than the other two, which were
Narratively,
phenomenal.
narratively, it's complete garbage.
Yeah,
Visually, it's
yeah,
stunning, but that's also because Nolan doesn't make a not stunning film.
Well, exactly, exactly. Um,
Look, we could have a
and
side
I know
topic
it's
about
kind
Dark
of,
Knight Rises if you
yeah,
want.
yeah. I didn't mean to sidetrack or derail it, but my point is, and what you're saying is, this turned into not an origin episode, but an origin season. And
Yes,
I felt that this hurt the season.
absolutely,
Season one, I would give an A plus,
absolutely.
but
Like, there isn't. I think the only thing wrong with season one, and even though I love Luke Cage, the whole interaction, like him being thrown in just for the sake of like, hey guys, we're gonna make four of these, and then we're gonna do a big show called The Defenders, was too much. Like he didn't need to be a part of season one. But other than that, season one is phenomenal.
well,
Um,
I think he needed to be a part of season one though. In the comics, um, they have a child together. They were married. Um, that's why she was.
but for the sake of like the fact that she's dealing with Kilgrave and other things, it just seemed unnecessary. And by the time he was gone out of the show, it didn't seem like anything changed. It
Yeah,
was it literally felt like he was only thrown in because of Netflix's and Marvel's plans for this Defenders franchise. Um,
possibly.
I didn't
Also,
hate Luke
it's
Cage's integration. I was just pointing out that like that was the only thing that I kind of felt was out of place.
yeah, yeah. I
Um,
see what you're saying there.
I mean, and that's from maybe my perspective because like you talk to somebody like my mom who doesn't pay attention to that kind of stuff like I do. She thought it was really cool because it exemplified the whole superhuman sort of thing.
Well, I was going to say, it also from that aspect gives her somebody on her level strength wise that she would have to throw down with because
Or have
as
extremely passionate sex with.
yeah, break the bed and everything else. But the it gave her something physical, whereas Kilgrave provided the mental. But she got in this season she got both. She got somebody that was mentally torturing her, basically mainly her own psyche and the facts that she's learning, but at the same time somebody who is more physically imposing than her and her own not dead anymore mother. Um,
The
that
last two
was
episodes,
just
or sorry, the last three episodes of the season were arguably the best.
I agree.
Um, be,
The first 4 or 5 episodes were really tough to get through.
yeah. The show progressively got better.
But
Um,
episode 7, I'm not gonna lie, made me cry my eyes out. I'm not gonna lie. That one hit emotionally,
oh, the last two
hit me
episodes, like the
very,
last,
very hard.
yeah, the last two episodes are really, really powerful, and in their own right, if you were to just watch those as like, let's say, a film, rock solid stuff.
Yeah.
And the episode before that, where she accidentally murders a guy in self defense, like her psyche starts manifesting Kilgrave, and so you get a whole
Which
episode where
was
base.
wonderful. I was like, oh my
God,
god.
that was such good storytelling. Like, did you ever play? To bring up something else here, did you ever play the Arkham series or watch the Arkham series being played?
I actually have the first 2 Arkham games, so I played through those in their entirety.
Okay, in Arkham Knight, which is the third game in the franchise,
Mm-hmm.
Joker's dead. But because of Batman and Joker's relationship, throughout the entire game,
The
Joker
Joker's
keeps
haunting
manifest. Yeah,
him. Ah.
it's almost the exact same way that Kilgrave keeps showing up visually to Jessica. Like he just kind of
Mm.
poofs in and out of existence and wherever he wants. Same how the Joker works in Dark Knight. I'm sorry, in Arkham Knight. So personally, love that. I was mom. That was like eating a
Yeah,
delicious cake. I was so happy with that.
I loved that. And then, of
Uh,
course, at the end, he's like, well, all right, you know where I am if you never need me. So that was just a
oddly
cool,
enough, so we only have a few more minutes before we're gonna give our grade. Um, Trisha's storyline was good.
it
I
was.
I enjoyed where she went, and I could give absolutely no shits about Hogarth's. No shits.
Yeah, I don't
Could care
care
less.
about Hogarth at all. I think
Sorry,
Hogarth
couldn't care
is.
less.
I think Hogarth is, you know,
She's such an
she
unlikable character, and then on
she is
top of that,
a detestable person.
it was like to me it was like giving Lex Luthor an incurable disease, and then watching him be human for an hour or something. It's like I don't care. I don't
Hmm.
care, and like I wouldn't wish ALS on anybody, on anybody. God, that's a horrible disease.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
watching
Rest in
her go
peace, Stephen
through,
Hawking.
yeah, no joking. Um, uh, sad about that, but
Hmm.
not upset because he survived way longer than they said he was going to.
Yeah, 50 some years. So, hell
Yeah.
yeah.
But anyway, yeah. So I wouldn't wish ALS on my worst enemy, but when it came to Hogarth's storyline, it was so
It's
boring
kind of
and
like, oh, she's got that. Well, I would feel bad for her if she wasn't such a piece of shit.
yeah, and then she gets kind of what she deserves in a sense with getting
Hmm.
robbed, and then her revenge is so ham-fisted. It's so
Yeah,
like, oh, we got to finish up this storyline. What do we do? And I hated it.
yeah, yeah. I didn't like that, but I
um,
don't like her character, and I really don't care for her actress either. Carrie Ann Moss, I've just never been a fan
really?
of. No, no,
Eh,
never been a
I
fan of her.
maybe because I have such strong attachments towards Trinity that I like her a lot.
I hated that character. I hated
Oh,
Trinity.
really?
Honestly, I loved the first Matrix movie. I think it was perfect as a standalone movie, and the sequels that followed were unnecessary, and I don't regard them.
Fascinating. That is a conversation you and I are going to have at a different time because I totally disagree with you. Um,
Good. Uh,
but
what
anyway, so we got to wrap this up, guys, and give
I
our grades. Josh, why don't you go first since I went first with Voltron?
I'm gonna give this season a B, straight up B. It wasn't for me as strong storyline wise as season one. I'm not saying that it's bad. I'm just saying for me, it wasn't as pleasing. There were some wonderful storytelling elements done in this show, but as we mentioned, I'm tired of origin stories. I don't need an entire season of an origin. Where did I come from? I thought this was because of an accident, not the results of some experiment that, some gene therapy rewrote and saved my life, and now I've got powers as a result. And oh, by the way, my mother, who was, I've thought, dead for 17 years, she's alive and she has these powers too and is a badass, even more of a badass than me. And it's just, I didn't need all that. It it hurt the storytelling to me. I liked, Trish's progression into batshit fucking nuts and obsessed to the point where now, she's ostracized herself. And in the end, I felt that even though Jessica has character growth and development, she is still basically essentially in the same place she was at the start of season one at the end of season two. Just, you know, now she's got this guy and a kid in the beginnings of a relationship, and she's, trusting of them and they're trusting of her. But other than that, she's got no other friends anymore. It's kind of like, trading one friend for another. And, now her and Malcolm are on this, we just nod at each other in the hallway. We don't know each other anymore. It felt like a merry-go-round of a lot of good stuff happening, but the payoff and the end result wasn't as satisfying, if that makes
Gotcha.
sense.
Yeah, I mean, to an extent, I think for me, this show gets a B minus.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
I agree with most of your points, but sorry, pardon me. The show had very disjointed feel. Not everything seemed to want to work together. There were moments where it felt like there were too many cooks in the kitchen. Somebody was trying to make a puzzle piece or trying to put together a puzzle, and there were two pieces that seemed like they went together, and instead of like going, oh, that doesn't work quite right, let me find the right one, they just started mashing it together on the table. Like, you get in there. And I didn't enjoy that very much. But what I did enjoy was a lot of where certain story elements went. I enjoyed how Jessica's arc, to an extent, went like, yeah, I was tired of the IGH stuff, but what I really enjoyed was how that brought in her mother. I thought the stuff with her mom was really, really solid work. And I don't know. I mean, I liked Malcolm's entire story arc. I thought Trish's was okay. Couldn't stand Hogarth's at all. And I thought that the stuff with the not doctor, I guess you call him doctor, scientist. That was that basically did the gene therapy on them. He was very boring. He was honestly very boring. And
I liked him. I didn't find him boring.
He needed to be more maniacal.
See, that may have helped, but I didn't think he was boring at all. But okay.
I found him to be very like a little too hippie-ish, and they definitely drove home the hippie-ish thing with his t-shirts.
Yeah.
But yeah, I did not enjoy this season nearly as much as season 1. But it's not bad. I think the acting is still really good. Most of the writing is really good. You have a bunch of, well, not a bunch, but you have a few new characters to kind of, chomp on. So there's some content there, and I think it's definitely worth a watch. But yeah, so B-.
All right,
guys. Yeah. So again, we will have a discussion thread on the Facebook discussion area thing for Jessica Jones season 2. Let us know what you think. Let us know what your grade is if you happen to watch the whole show. Yeah, we'll have a discussion in there, talk about our differences of the show. If you think we're wrong about the whole Hogarth subplot and if it was good to you or not, please let us know. Guys, next episode we are going to be watching a new anime that's on Netflix right now called AICO Incarnation. Neither of us have really any idea what it's about, but I want to watch an anime. So here we go. The other show is Santa Clarita Diet Season 2. The first season is still on Netflix, obviously, because they're doing a Season 2. But if you haven't heard of that show, it's basically a sitcom, but like, what's her name? Oh my gosh, I'm drawing a blank on the actress's name. Drew Barrymore.
Oh yeah.
She's a mother of a family, starts this diet, but it had like a virus, a zombie virus in it, but it didn't change her into a mindless zombie. It just changed her into a like
cannibal.
She's still a zombie. She's still undead.
Oh, okay. Well, I've not seen it,
Yeah,
so I have no idea. So I'm going to be watching both seasons.
Well, basically, after she becomes the zombie, her whole family's like job now is to keep her zombiness a secret. So it's very funny. So yeah, Josh will be watching season 1. I've already seen it, and we're gonna review season 2 next week. Next episode. I almost said next week again. Guys.
Well, it happens. The next episode will publish on the 30th of March.
Yeah,
so
there you go.
This one will be on the 16th.
So guys, we want to thank you for your continued support of the show. It is extremely exciting to see the growth the show has had. Having worked on so many podcasts, so many shows, streams, other entertainment ventures, and to see this one possibly be the most successful one that I've worked on. I love Mission Star Podcast and I love Anthony, but this one's blowing up bigger. And a lot of that has to do with Josh's like hard work effort on the website, allqueueduppodcast.com, creating the Facebook page, all the friends and family that they're family at this point in my mind, but they've come through and helped us build this to what it is, and I could not be more thankful. So thank you guys for your continued support. Guys, we love hearing from you, whether it's in the discussion thing or if you want to be a guest on the show. That is totally still an option, still on the table. If that is something that you want to try to do, test your discussion chops. Guys, you can contact our Twitter, our Discord, our email, allq.podcast@gmail.com, or message either Josh or I on our Twitter accounts, which is I'm at ChubRockGeek. Josh, what is your Twitter account?
At nsabanur1976.
There you go.
And you can see how that is spelled on our website. And a cool thing about our website, allqueueduppodcast.com, is when you go, there is, we have a blog. Every Tuesday, I'm putting up a write-up about something that I've watched that we didn't put on the show. Or something that may have been out for a while that may have flown under your radar. I know this Tuesday I'm going to cover the Netflix original movie Blame. It's an anime. And I'm only going to be covering that because, my pal Bobby Skullface reviewed the action figures for a couple of the figures on his YouTube channel. And I was like, man, I want to watch whatever show those are from because it just looks cool. So I'm going to review that. But yeah, the website, we've got a little sidebar on the left. Everything's color-coded. It'll take you to the links to our Facebook discussion group. It'll take you to our Twitter page where you can tweet the show. Our YouTube channel where we also publish video versions of this show each week in its entirety, or each episode in its entirety when it publishes to the audio versions such as Podbean, iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, and as of today, we're on Spotify as well. So there's another option for your listening choices. We do have a Tumblr blog and an Instagram account. So follow us on all those platforms. Leave us some reviews. We love hearing feedback, but you know what? Leaving reviews helps on these platforms because it helps other eyes see us. It helps our rotation. So yeah, we would appreciate all of those things. But we are just entirely super grateful for the help that we have received from our friends. And I couldn't be more grateful. So I really appreciate it.
Yeah, same here. Let's see, real quick. Josh, where else can they find you online?
Like I said, my Twitter handle is at nsabanur1976, ENSABAHNUR.
If you said that prior to anything else, I apologize.
I did. It's okay. It's okay. See, guys, he doesn't pay attention.
Well, because I was looking at something on my phone that caught my attention for like a second.
Oh, you're one of those people that have the phones in the hand. I see.
Look. Okay, it was something that had to do with the show. Netflix tweeted something on. I thought it was important. It wasn't.
Oh.
But
don't tell them that.
Guys,
they might listen one day.
Guys, you can follow me again on Twitter at ChubRockGeek. That's ChubRockGeek, all one word. Not that Twitter does spaces. Also, you can find me on Mission Star Podcast's Twitter handle. That's twitch.tv/MissionStarP, where every Sunday I do a video game news podcast, where Anthony and I basically just take the top stories of the week and discuss them. The other thing that we do is that hopefully it'll come back soon as Anthony gets his new PC, is a show called What's on Tap, where Anthony plays a game poorly and I make fun of him for it. It's basically what the show is. Josh is there in the chat. He's seen it. He knows that's the case.
I make fun of him too because, let's be fair, it's Anthony. We love the little guy, but man, it's so easy to make fun of him.
He's just so bad at
he's
games.
Yeah, he is. He really is. But he's a good sport about it, and that's what makes it fun.
Right? Yeah, I wouldn't be
There's
doing
no malice involved.
Yeah, absolutely. We're just it's just gentle ribbing. Maybe not so gentle, but regardless,
No, it's not gentle at all. We give him literal buckets of shit.
um,
And Valaire helps too. Uh,
but guys, that's gonna do it for us here at All Queued Up. Again, thank you guys for joining us. It means the world to us that you enjoy this show, and we want to make this grow into something big for both of us. But again, that's all for us today. Thank you guys for being here. And how do I usually sign out? Oh, that's right, Josh.
you usually say we'll see you next time, and I'll just go with take care, everybody.